Think we're live. Not quite sure. We are working on things here. Technology. All right. Hopefully you guys find this. Hopefully you do. Welcome to the first live stream of the lighter side of RC After Dark. I got to make sure I try and look at the right camera. So I had a live stream scheduled. Part of the problem with scheduling a live stream on a new channel is that you don't have access to the stuff you normally do if you have a channel that is very established, like the normal lighter side of RC channel. That is normally established and all is well. Jack loves planes. Hey Jack, you guys can hear me okay and everything? Just send a comment if you can. So part of the problem is that when you start a new channel, everything is very restricted. So you can't live stream from your phone. Perfect. You can't do a lot of the stuff that you can do when you have a well-established channel. So that makes things a little bit complicated and a little bit tough. And that's why we couldn't use the link that I posted on Facebook today. And I had to create a brand new link on... anyways, I had to create a brand new thing. So I actually wasn't even planning on being able to do this from my phone, which is what I'm doing it right now, because I don't have access to do this from my phone via YouTube. It's got to go through a different service. Anyways, what's the purpose of the lighter side of RC After Dark? Well, if you're watching this during the live stream or afterwards, I guess, we're going to be doing stuff here in the shop. It's going to be a little bit less one-on-one, but I just told my wife, Katie, that, if we get enough people on these live streams, she can be behind the camera. You guys can be asking me questions while I'm working, and I will happily answer those questions. But right now, the whole point of this is you guys are going, excuse me, you guys are going to get... Oh, and I just came back from the US, and this is like one of the reasons I love going to the US is because you can get stuff like this, which we can't get in Canada, so it's kind of lame. So one of the things about hopping on these live streams is you guys will get access and some inside views of what's going on before it actually comes out in the videos. So the Strega over there, we're about 50% through the engine installation of the Colm engine. I've been working on the tail section, working on the gears, and none of those videos have come out yet. So it's, I guess it's all behind the scenes action of what's going on here. And that's kind of it. So it's going to be a little bit low key for now and a little bit less interactive, but you guys will get some views of what it's like here at the lighter side of RC during our normal work time. So the plan with all this is I'm going to get some work done tonight, and I will come and check back on the screen here. If you have any questions that you want me to address, feel free to put them on the screen. But we're trying to get some stuff done. We are getting ready for an event this weekend, and that's part of the reason that I'm doing this on a Wednesday evening is we've got events like every weekend during the summer. Our flying season is so short here that it's really weekends are very busy and tied up and everything. So that's kind of our normal weekend schedule is we are busy. The other thing you guys will see during these live streams is obviously we've got this camera recording stuff, but I've got my other camera that I will be recording snippets on. And I mean, you guys, you're going to get the full-on view here. I've tried to eat before I did this. I tried to make sure I went to the bathroom so you're not just looking at an empty shop. And usually I would have music playing, but I think that we would get flagged by YouTube if we put music on. So anyways, I'll give you a bit of an explanation of what we're doing here. So the Colm engine, we've been doing steps every single day. So when you do the Colm engine install on the Strega or on a P51, you have to glue something, wait 24 hours for the glue to dry, glue something, wait 24 hours. So we've been working on that engine install for a week now, doing one step at a time. And it's a little bit crazy, but hopefully that video will be coming out next week. And I just got the first gear installed on one of the mains here for the left wing on the P51. So that is basically it. I'll try and keep the language PG. I'm usually very PG all the time, but sometimes things slip out. And Nez was in the shop earlier, and she is, I made sure she was inside because I didn't want her out here because she's driving me nuts today. So anyways, we're working on the gear doors here. Maybe I'll bring you guys in a little bit closer. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, and I will try and answer them. So this, I know, is going to be a lot less exciting than the videos because everything's happening in real time. So anyways, what we're doing right now is we are trying to get the servo set up here for the gear doors on these mains. Now we're using these small KST servos. They're a brushless motor. They've got like 20 pounds of force. They're going to be awesome for this scenario. And we also need the space as well too. So it's a nice little servo that's going to be a nice ticket. So we need to make mounts for these guys. Is going to be the next thing we have to do. Now I could 3D print these mounts, or I could make them out of wood. I'm probably just going to make them out of wood because it's quick, easy, simple, and we don't need anything too crazy for this. Everybody still good? Jack Loves Planes, you're still there? I see 5 people on. Better than I thought, actually. Better than I thought. So I'll bring you guys around as we kind of work through this stuff. And you'll get a view of all the crazy parts of the shop. Crazy views. So I'm just figuring out how to make a mount here for the servo. And we need one for each side. So we'll cut our pieces of plywood. All right, so the intention here, we're making a little back plate for the servo. The back plate can get glued to the inside of the wing root, and then I'm going to put 2 little risers on here to screw the servo into. So I'm just going to sand those guys down, make them nice and pretty. There we go. So we got those all sanded down. Chris, thank you. It was definitely nice to see you in Montana as well too. I'll tell you guys, if you ever get the opportunity to come to Montana Jets, that is by far one of the highlights of my year for sure. It's tons of fun. The people really are are what makes that event absolutely amazing. There's just a great group of guys down there, a great group of people. The hospitality is outstanding. So it's tons of fun. And this year, obviously, Katie came with me, and she had a ton of fun as well too. So it was great. It's a highlight of my year for sure. So it's a little weird having you guys watch me. It's definitely a little odd. I'll tell you that. Okay, so now I'm just cutting the risers for the servo mount. Again, if you guys have questions, just ask me. This is kind of the in-depth stuff that we don't really ever talk about on the channel. So here's my kind of workstation here. This is where all the cutting, grinding, all that stuff goes. This is my throw bin, so where I keep all my little pieces of carbon and pieces of wood and just miscellaneous things. And then underneath is the sanding station and some extra pieces of plywood and such. So we've cut these guys. So this is going to be our riser right there, which gets glued on. So we'll cut a couple of those. And they don't have to be overly big. Oh, we lost your power. Power is out. Uh-oh. Still got power there. Why is power not working? Technical difficulties. That works. Huh. This power bar setup is kind of hokey, I think. Ugh. Huh. Well, that's cool. Not really. Well, let's just... There we go. All right, so we got all of our backing pieces. We got those guys. Let's go over here. Jack, you're flying to England. Nice. Well, that is very cool. Have fun. This is all very weird for me. I thank you for tuning in. There we go. All right. Okay, so we've got our backing pieces. Now we just need to get this glued together. One of the things that people often wonder about is how I get so much work done. Part of the reason is I spend most of my evenings working in the shop, especially during the winter months. It's very, very cold here in Canada, and dark and dreary, and we have hardly any sunshine. Actually, that's wrong. We have sunshine, but we have hardly any daylight hours. And right now, people are blown away at how much daylight time we have. So if you saw any of the Montana Jets videos, you would have seen that like right now it is 6:20. The sun is still very high in the sky. Summer solstice was the 21st of June, and that was the longest day of the year. And we had daylight till about it was daylight till about 10:20 p.m. I guess ish. And yeah, we get lots of sun in the summertime, or lots of daylight. So it's very, very nice in the summertime up here in Canada. Okay, so this is kind of what we're trying to accomplish right there. So basically just making a plywood mount. This side, because the servo leads right there, we're going to have to shave that down a little bit because our full width isn't going to fit with the servo lead. But that is basically what we're doing. So then this is going to get glued into the root of the wing like that. And when the door is closed, that servo arm is going to come straight down. And when it's open, it's going to be at some point like this, whatever it needs to be set at. But the goal is to have that arm perfectly straight. So it is pulling the door closed, and the mechanics of all this is what is keeping the door closed, not the servo itself. Okay, so these guys came apart, so we'll glue them together as well. I never really get off using CA without gluing my fingers together. So this weekend we've got events coming up. This weekend is one of my other favorite events. It is here in Alberta, in Canada, and it's called it's called Air Show 41 or 44 or something like that. But it's the actual event is held at the Alberta's littlest airport, it's called. And it is by far one of the highlights of my year. So it always happens on July 1st, which is our version of the US July 4th. So it's Canada Day is July 1st, which this year falls on the Saturday. And it's just some guys are already there, but it's a whole event. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's about a week long. Fireworks on the Saturday, top-notch fireworks display, and it's lovely. So, all right, so I'm gonna go grind these guys down over there to fit on the servo. All right, so we got those done. Perfect. So now this servo is also getting pretty much glued to the mount as well. We will screw it in place, but it is very much getting glued to the wood, which is okay. If it ever needs to get replaced, won't be the end of the world to get it out and replace it, but it's definitely not going to be a quick 2-second job. So there we go. All right, so I'm not sure how long these live streams are going to be. The point was just to give you guys a view from the back end of the shop, the behind the scenes stuff, and that's the purpose. So, all right, so we got to video this stuff as well because not everybody's going to see the live stream. So this is how the videoing works. All right, guys, we've got the servo sorted out here, and we've made a plywood mount for it. Now, this plywood mount is going to go on the root of the wing like we talked about. So we've just glued the plywood mount together, glued the servo in place. We're going to put some screws in there as well too, but pretty straightforward system, and yeah, should work awesome. And then we will actually glue this in place. So we'll get both of these made up, and then we'll be able to install them in the wings. So when you're doing when I'm doing all the videoing, usually what'll happen is I'll end up with probably 50% more footage than I actually need. So it'll be, you know, for a 40-minute video, you might have an hour and something of footage, and you're basically editing all of the little ums and ahs and pauses out and trying to clip things together. Often I'll record something and it just doesn't make sense, or it's kind of a silly way of doing things. So I'll quite often cut a lot of it out as well too. Okay, so our matching servo is going to sit on that side like that, and that should be good. Okay. Okay, so that's that. We've got our screws. We're going to get the servo screwed into the wood. So for that, we need a pin vise and a little screwdriver, and then we're also going to treat these pieces of wood with some thin CA to make sure they don't come apart. And our thin CA is blocked. There we go. There. All right, so pre-drill these holes, and then we'll just screw the servo in place as well. Servo's probably not going anywhere because we've glued it to the mount, but a little bit of extra insurance. And if you're watching this and you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll kind of take some views of the screen here at random times and answer some of the questions you guys have if you have any. We're still going strong. Okay. So one of the things I like to do, and I've talked about this in a lot of my build videos, is usually when I get to to the wings, actually even the tail section as well, the horizontal stabs, I will do one of the surfaces 100%, and that allows me to get everything figured out, all the problems solved, everything engineered and dealt with, and then it's really quick to copy on the other side. So as an example, in this case right here, making this door servo mount, now we know exactly what we need to do on the other side. So this one is ready to glue in place. And it's going to go right at the base of the wing. And we should have enough clearance that everything is going to work beautifully. So what we need to do now is we need to make the exact match for the other wing. So I'll flip you guys around. There's the other wing right there. We're just going to confirm that everything is the same. So the other wing, leading edge, and that goes towards the bottom like that. So that matches everything there. Now this P51 or Strega has been definitely a challenge. Part of the challenge has been it's not a normal plane for me to build, right? Like I've never installed a Colm engine before. That was a first. All the ducting is very, very specific on the engine, which is pretty cool stuff because it has to be installed very well. There's no instruction booklet specifically for the Strega or for the Colm engine. So that's been interesting because we've had to kind of figure things out and make sure everything works without ever having done it before, which is a fun challenge. All right. Okay. The other side. And thank you guys if you're watching this live stream and you are a subscriber of the new channel. Thank you. The reason I started the new channel was I felt like there was some things that I wanted to do and it didn't really fit or work with the other channel. It would just be like live streams like this, I think might be okay, but I didn't want it to interfere with my upload schedule and such. So I felt like starting a new channel for all the weird stuff was the way to do it. And we'll see what happens, see where it morphs into, see where it goes. I'm actually really excited to do some of the interview stuff, podcast stuff maybe. If you guys haven't seen it, Flat Out RC from Australia, I was on his podcast a few weeks back now, and that was tons of fun. Andrew did a great job, and all the editing he does. He's interviewed a ton of people in the RC industry. Guys like Martin Pickering were on there, and Martin and I have a bit of a bet going on our channels. First person to 100K wins. There's nothing that we've decided we're betting on yet, other than just a friendly game of who gets there first. And the reason for that is Martin Pickering was one of my heroes. He still is. I think he's an awesome guy. But I really wanted to grow my YouTube channel to be like where Martin was. And a few weeks ago, I finally surpassed subscribers on my channel compared to his, which doesn't really mean much. But it was just one of those small goals that I had set out for myself. And I mentioned that on Andrew's podcast on Flat Out RC, and Martin heard it and he had a good chuckle about it, and we were messaging each other back and forth. So always fun stuff. Now, if we do these live streams on a weekend, often Saturdays, my friend slash helper Ward is here. You guys have seen him in some of the videos. So you'll see other guests and people hanging out in the shop. It's usually a Friday night. And that is, if you're going to come for a visit, a Saturday night, if you're going to come for a visit, that's probably the best time to do it. During the summer is a little bit different because we're often at events. So the next couple weeks here, we've got, so this coming week, we're at the Littlest Airport that I talked about, and going to be there for 3-4 days. And then the weekend after that, we are in Towfield. So Towfield is about 3.5 hours north of me. And it's a paved runway, so it's, I got CA on my tongue. It's a full-scale runway, and I think 4,000 feet of runway. Cool place to fly. Obviously, it's 3.5 hours away, but that's not really a big deal. Okay, so there is mount number 2. Worked out good. Awesome. Perfect. So we've got these things ready. I'm going to get the servos set up. Now, this servo here, I've already set up through the Electron controller. I'll try and keep my workspace clean. Be a good example for you guys. Okay, so Electron controller. So I always, when I do builds like this or in any aircraft stuff, I'm always working left to right. So my left wing is always number 1. It's aileron 1, it's flap 1. This will be gear door number 1. And then we've got the right side, which is all number 2. And in the case of something like an A10, you've got 4 flaps. So same thing, we are flap number 1, 2, 3, 4 as we worked across the wing. Thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. And the reason I do that is because then it just keeps everything consistent, and I know. So if somebody who I've built a plane for calls me and they're like, hey, I need to know how to adjust this, I know exactly what surface it is, unless they've done some changes to the radio, stuff like that. So I've also marked that with a number 2. So once we get our servos set up here, we won't mix them up. We know which ones are going where. Okay, so we need radio for that. Oh, and I've got something exciting to tell you guys. I think I'll only announce this on this channel. Yeah, and I think it's pretty much confirmed now. Actually, I know it's confirmed now, so I'll announce it to you guys here. So this is a little bit of a thank you for coming to this channel, because people on the other channel aren't going to hear about this. So we are working on, I gotta look at you guys for this. We're working on a radio test. So I own a Jetty, and I also have a Spectrum IX20 for a shop radio. That's just for customer stuff and for like foamies and things like that. I've reached out to all of the other major manufacturers. So I've reached out to Core Powerbox. One of the Core radios is en route to do the test with. I've got a JR radio here, a 28X, but I reached out to JR and asked them if they wanted to send a new version of the radio for the test. All these radios get sent back at the end. I've reached out to Futaba, no response yet, but I do think I have access to a Futaba radio. I've reached out to Free Sky. I think they're going to be sending me a radio to test as well. And I've also reached out to Radio Master, and they're sending me a radio to test as well too. So we've got a very interesting radio test coming up. And this is something that my friend Addison brought up when I was down in Montana. And it was basically, the premise of the test is a distance test. So if you think about, we haven't worked out all the details yet, the finer details, but if you think about it this way, we have a board set up with a receiver, a servo or a couple servos, and it's set up in a vehicle. One person with a radio, let's say the Jetty, is parked at the home base or the base camp, let's call it. The vehicle drives in a straight line on a flat road, no water, no trees, no nothing around, which we've got lots of here. And we get some different data points from the different radios. As far as distance, I think the first test we're going to do is an out of sight test. So in miles, maybe 1.5, 2 miles, something like that. And we'll see, make sure all the radios can perform at that distance. And then what we'll do is we will do a test where we go further until we get a radio glitch and then a complete radio cutoff, which I think will happen shortly after. So that test is coming. I hope that we can get that test organized for kind of the end of July, beginning of August is the goal. And yeah, we'll see. And if any radio manufacturers decide they don't want to be part of it, that's okay too. But I will let you guys know if they decide not to. Okay, so this is door number 2. I'll turn our power on. And then now what I do is I just get this set up with my servo arm. So I'm going to go into the main, go into the programming screen. Servos, servo number 2, and we're going to go into the close position. We'll go to servo number 1. So closed was minus 100, so we'll set the same thing up on servo number 2. And the reason I'm going minus at 100 is so that we have some additional adjustment if we need to. So in order to get that straight, we need to go a little bit further. That's fine. And then our open position. Oh, that's wrong. Okay, so our closed position, there we go. So we're at plus 111. Open position, we're going to go at minus 125, so we can always work backwards. There we go, save. So now if we go to servo number 2, we're going to close the servo, that's where it is, and we open the servo, and that's where it is. So now both of these servos are set up to be installed. Turn all that off. Okay, now we need to put our servo screw in. We use Loctite, of course. And servo screw. So people often ask how I get so much done, and I kind of touched on that a little bit earlier about our weather, but I also try and batch as much stuff as possible. So like with working on the Colm engine install over there, that's not the only thing I'm going to work on. I started off working just on that, but I got to the point where I would spend 30 minutes doing something, and then I wouldn't have anything else to do. So naturally, I move into the wings and all the other parts of the build. So while the engine's getting installed, the rest of the build can progress. Okay, so now we're going to put our screw through the back of the servo arm. Make sure we Loctite this. So when we get close to the, oh, you guys can't even see. When we get close to the very end, I'll put a little bit of Loctite on there. There. So now those guys are set up. They're, I guess, sort of like a matched pair. When the door opens, they operate like that. When the door closes, they go straight like that. David said, I think you guys can see this too, due to everybody that I've met and viewers and stuff like that. And like when I look at that, I feel like I'm talking to everybody. Talking to the camera like this is a little bit weird because I know it's live and I can't edit anything. So it's a little bit weird. And yes, to answer your question, I do find myself talking to myself quite often and talking through problems and such. That's just the way it works. And this is the video segment. All right, so we've got both of our servo mounts done up here. They are ready to be glued. Now, we've got, obviously, this gear installed here. We're going to extend this gear to allow us room to be able to glue this in place. Now, we want to try and get these set up evenly as much as possible so we're not doing crazy different lengths on the arms. But what we'll do is we'll get this gear out of the way, and then that gives us good access to that area. And that's the recording portion. All right, so the other thing that just popped into my head as I'm looking at this stuff is our bolts here. So we got this gear mounted last night, and when I look at this, I have a feeling, oh no, that's gonna work. That is going to work. Oh no. So yeah, the bolts are gonna add a little bit of interference on this door. So we've got big 5mm Allen key bolts, and those are going to touch the back of the door here. We can pull the washers out as well, and that'll give it maybe enough clearance, but what we have to do there is put maybe a little bit of a cutout here on the door to clear the bolts, but not a worry right now. The primary thing we're worried about is the landing gear itself. Okay, so we'll get this plugged in so we can get it out of the way. So this is all the stuff that I will get set up beforehand. You know, I'm getting the gear installed beforehand. I'm getting the doors all set up beforehand. And the purpose of that is when you go to wire everything up, everything's already 100%. So when I go to wire this wing up, all my leads will come out to the base of the wing, and I know that my gear's set up. I know that my door's set up. The surfaces are all set up and ready to go. You guys get a first experience here of this gear. So again, cool insights that the video hasn't even been produced yet. There we go. This gear is also a little bit weird because you've got so much adjustment here in between these gear mounts that there's a lot of forgiveness in each direction. So, okay, so that's done. Radio off. And if you missed the beginning of the live stream, not a promotion for Dr. Pepper, but one of the reasons I love going to the US is we can't get stuff like this in Canada. It's lame, but that's just the way it is. So usually we come back with a whole bunch of that. So that's how you get good advice. Yes, that is exactly how you get good advice. Just listen to your inner voice telling you what to do. Okay, so now we need to mount these guys on the carbon. So this is always a little interesting. So we've got options here as far as how we're mounting this stuff. Move you guys over so you got a better view. Oh yeah. Okay, so going on the root of the wing. There you go. Just like that. So the goal here is we have a ball joint that's going on the servo, and then we've got either a ball joint or a clevis that's going on the door. So with this touching the leading edge of the wing, that kind of gives us good options for both. We can use ball joint, or ball joint clevis. So that is where we're going to put that servo. And I think we're going to do the output shaft right in line with the bottom there, and I think that's going to work out wonderful. Now we could do it up higher. I don't know if there's any benefit to doing it up higher. So the tire sits in the middle of the wing regardless. So let's actually put this gear back down and just confirm that we've got enough room no matter where we put it. Okay, radio's on, gear is in the down position. Okay, so what we're looking for here is, do we have any interference if we're down low? No. If we're up high? No. So a shorter linkage is probably going to be better. So we should probably mount that servo up high, but maybe a longer linkage is better because then it gives the ball joint more forgiveness. So maybe we'll run that down low. And these are the things that I talk myself through. This is exactly when I'm doing the install on the equipment. This is exactly what it's like. And this is when I'm talking to myself the most. Maybe that's why it's better when Ward's here, because then it feels like I'm not talking to myself. Okay, so I am going to run that servo down low. And the reason for that is it gives our ball joint and everything more flexibility if it's down low. I don't think it really matters, but maybe it does. Okay, so now that we know where the servo is going, we've got to do a little bit of sanding on these wings. So I'm just going to mark that out where it needs to go with a paint marker. The other wings over there, we'll do the same thing over there. Okay, so our servo's going down there. All right. Yes. Thank you. Good point. Gives more clearance from the tire. That is correct. I'll show you guys a little bit of the insight of the, this is a little bit weird. I don't know if I can turn my camera around or not. No, I don't think so. Now I've got the screen up. Flip camera. Oh, look at that. I can flip the camera. How cool is that? Man, technology is cool. Okay, guys, so here's the Strega engine install so far. So it's been a real chore. We have a double firewall here. I encourage you to watch the video because it's pretty crazy. So we've got a double firewall set up, so this has been glued on both sides. I added an access hatch on the bottom with a lip for the access hatch to sit against. You can see it right there. We cut that access hatch. It's not a thing that comes with the kit. There's the actual hatch there. 2 nights ago, added all the carbon reinforcement. Now this was fairly flexible without this carbon in there. So I don't know if it's like, if you can see the indent right there. This is how the front engine box was, which is good, but we cut a whole bunch of that bottom portion away. So put 3 layers of 6-ounce carbon cloth on the side here, and this is like crazy stiff. So we did that all the way around. And then the last step that we did last night was glue this in place. This is for the engine cooling baffling. So that's where we're at right now. This is the front intake duct, which sits like that. So this is the next step that we need to figure out. And this one's going to be a little bit tricky because the duct doesn't just fit. You've got to shape the whole front end. You've got to do a cutout that matches this. So it's been a real chore. So GDA Eagle, is Patrick an F-16 pilot? Well, let me flip this around. Flip camera. Oh, that's cool. Patrick is like full-scale aviation. He is, I think, desiring to be a F-16 pilot or pilot of some sort. Obviously, I don't think there's a lot of choice. I'm not super familiar with the whole U.S. pilot thing, but that's his goal, yes. And then Josh as well too. He's one of the young guys down in Montana as well. Outstanding pilot, and he just started Air Force, or he starts. I think it's called basic training. He's checking in for basic training very soon. So Patrick's 18 or 19. Just finished his private pilot license, and that's the flight that I went on down in Montana. Okay, so this is all good to go. What we need to do now is we need to pull our Dremel out and just do a little bit of sanding. So this carbon fiber is smooth, and you want to make sure that you are sanding the carbon fiber before you glue anything to it. That also applies to like if you're gluing anything in the fuselage as well too. Doesn't really matter what you're using. If I have the cutoff disc here, this is what I use. But you just need to add some texture to the carbon. Now, if I was doing more sanding, I would start the vacuum, but we'll just vacuum up the dust right there. And we have to go over on the other side and do the same thing to the other wing. Okay, I've got enough cord. Vacuum up the dust. All right. Let's see. Yeah, I actually do keep track during, so let's go through this. I flew so GDA Eagle said I flew B-52s as a pilot for about 50 years. You never get it out of your blood, I can imagine. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I do keep track of all my stuff. My Apple Watch keeps track of my exercise and everything. So my goal is to close my circles every day. That is my goal. But the mornings I don't get to work out. Often doesn't happen. So okay, so what we need to do now is we need to make up some, and yes, I do get a lot of steps in, but like on a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday when I'm in here for 12, 16 hours, it adds up real quick. Okay, so what I'm looking for is my mixing container. So I also keep, show you guys this, I also keep all my servo containers. So these are all from MKS Servos, and this is what I use to mix epoxy and like high sol and such. So on these guys, we will use 20-minute high sol, this stuff here. So I don't often use the nozzles. That's a question I get asked quite often. I don't often use the nozzles. I just use Trusty's coated in epoxy. So I just use a container like this, and you can usually do a whole bunch of mixes in there, and it saves using the nozzles. The nozzles also don't mix the epoxy as well as mixing it by hand. If I have to use a nozzle, usually what I'll do is I'll heat the epoxy up so it gets a better chance of mixing, but all I do is just take it and mix it up in the container, and works out very well. And then usually when I'm gluing, I'll try and batch my gluing. There's instances like this where you really don't have any options to batch anything. So I don't have anything else to glue. I mean, excuse me, guys. I do have obviously the Strega install to glue, but I don't have anything ready to glue there. So this is probably too much high sol, but better than not enough, I think. All right, so let's glue these servos in. We'll need some clamps as well. I think you guys can see there. Okay, so we need some clamps. And you can do this a couple ways. You can either clamp it in place, or you could use CA to hold the servo in place. On this wing, at least, we will be using a clamp. On the other wing, I may use CA because I want to get the landing gear installed. So we're running the output shaft roughly at the in line with the bottom of the square opening there. I don't know if you guys can see that, but so I'm just getting an idea where it's going to go. And we'll just put a whole bunch of high sol on the back side. Now, even though this is 20-minute high sol, it basically takes 24 hours to really cure. I mean, with this stuff, after about 4 hours, you can probably get away with it. That clamp's not going to work. We need a C-clamp. So this clamp's not going to work because it doesn't fit in the openings. So we need C-clamp. Okay, so she moved on me. Get it readjusted. Now, I'm not overly worried about position. It doesn't need to be perfectly matched between the two because we're using custom adjusted rods anyways. So we'll just make sure that we're sort of happy with the position. Right there. There we go. We'll take the high saw and just put a little bit more over top of the wood to glue that together. Perfect. Okay, so that one's done. Now we can pull this wing off and we can get it over on the table, and we'll bring our other wing up here to work on that. All right, we're gonna put that the other direction. Move you guys around. There we go. Oh, we got some new comments. Let's see. I use my old servo containers for extra screws or wing bolts to keep them in. Yes, that's another good point as well too. Actually, I'll show you guys what we do here as well. Very, very similar to what you were saying there, David. The wind might get a little bit weird here. So here's airplane trailer. So PC21 down there. You can see the blue servo box right there. So that has all the parts for the plane. So usually when we're doing the stands like this, when I do them for my friend, I'll put a servo box down there, and that's where all the bits and bytes for his plane goes. So, by the way, PC21's back in the shop. We're making some changes. We were out on Saturday and we were going to do the maiden, but if you watched that build series, we made the switch to Electron landing gear, and unfortunately, with the change to Electron landing gear, I kind of knew this was going to happen. I thought it might work out okay, but the Electron landing gear reduced the clearance in the front end, actually all the way around the aircraft. So we only had roughly about an inch between the ground and the prop, and that's just not good. So we're actually converting the PC21 back to the air system. We're going to put a compressor in it, a fail-safe unit in it, and it's going to allow more ground clearance. So we did our startups and our taxi tests and some of that stuff, but it wasn't safe to fly. So RC Modeler, do you scuff the mounting area? Yes, that is exactly what I do. You got to make sure you scuff the mounting area. If you don't scuff the mounting area and you're just epoxying something onto a bare, smooth spot, what's going to happen is it's just going to separate. It's just going to pop off, no problem, and you're going to have issues. Often it'll hold quite well, but it'll happen when you really don't want it to happen. Like you'll be at an event and it'll pop off, and your day is pretty much wrecked, right? So yeah, you got to make sure you scuff that stuff. And even like so I showed you guys the Strega. We added that carbon cloth there on the Strega. All of that needed to be sanded as well too. If you don't sand that stuff, it doesn't adhere very well. So it's very important to make sure you do that. Okay, so I'm just getting the clamp kind of done up, and then we will check the servo position. So all I'm doing when I check the servo position is I'm just running my screwdriver across, and that's it. Nothing overly technical. Doesn't need to be, again, super accurate because our arm is completely adjustable. Okay, so we've got our extra high sol here. We're just going to take that extra high sol and put some on the wood, the little risers that we screwed the servo into. Like that. And that's it. So servos are mounted. Now we can start working on our landing gear. I'm going to make sure I keep an eye on my battery as well. I've got my AirPods in. That's how this is all coming through. And battery wise, 67%. So that's good. Good night, Chris. Thanks for tuning in. Dave said, is the Kinetics my new favorite? I've only got 3 planes right now, so 3 turbine jets anyways. I've got the Super Elan, I've got the Ranger, and I've got the Kinetics. They're good question. The Kinetic, they're very different. That's the thing. The Super Elan is like as easy to fly as you will ever get. So the Super Elan, it's massive. It's got a great presence in the air. The lighting system on it is next level awesome. So I love that about it too. The Kinetics, I'm sad that there's no lighting system on there, but we do have the opportunity to fix that. But the Elan is just easy. If you've ever flown a boomerang, especially the Elan, the Super Elan is just way easier to fly because it's huge, right? You can see it in the sky no matter where you are. But the Kinetics is about 10 pounds lighter than the Super Elan. Similar size plane, but just more, a little bit quicker on the sticks, a little bit more agile. So I really love them both. The Kinetics it's a dream to fly though. It really is. It's awesome. No bad habits at all. I ended up mixing. So on knife edge, the plane would self-correct itself. So if this is your wings and I'm flying towards you guys, you go in knife edge, this is the top of the plane, you add rudder, and the plane naturally corrects itself to level. So I ended up adding, I think I settled on 7% aileron to rudder mix. So when I go into knife edge, add rudder, there's a 7% aileron mix to prevent the self-correcting. That's the only thing I've done on the plane. And now when I go into a knife edge, it just holds it. It's just beautiful. You don't even really, like, if you're doing a slow roll, when you go into that knife edge, I mean, it holds it there for quite a while. So really, when you go into a slow roll, you don't even really need to add much rudder at all. Now I do need to work out and start taking out some of the nose weight because you have to push a little bit when you're inverted. So so I do love the Kinetics. It's definitely one of my go-to jets for sure. Hey Floyd, hopefully that answer you guys' question about the Kinetics. I'm kind of a fan of the big sports jets like that. I love being able to fly aerobatics. and basically be able to do anything with the aircraft. Scale stuff is fun, but would you take an F-18 and do a knife edge pass down the runway? Not really, because that's not something you would do in the full scale, right? So it's one of those things where a scale plane should be flown like it's supposed to be flown, in my mind. And the sports jet, really, one of the best things about it is you can do anything with it. So I'm a huge fan of that design too, because it's very constant speed. It doesn't get going too fast. Yeah, but so I do really love it. I think it's a phenomenal jet. It's definitely one of my favorites. Absolutely. Okay, so we've got both of our servos installed. I got to video this part for the regular stuff. All right, guys, so we've got both of our servos installed, and right over there, this is going to be like an infinite time warp. We're doing a live stream right now on the lighter side of RC After Dark. So if you're not familiar with what that is, basically the lighter side of RC After Dark is for all the stuff that really doesn't belong on this channel. So we're doing live streams, possibly interviews and podcasts and stuff like that. So definitely check it out. There's a link down below in the video description that links to the lighter side of RC After Dark. And if you're watching this, well, when you watch the After Dark, they've seen all this stuff that we're doing right now well in advance. All right, so we've got our servos installed. They're clamped in place. Not really any rhyme or reason as to where we put these. All I did was the output shaft of the servo right there is kind of in line with the underside of this opening. That was the way to set these guys up. So we've used 20-minute high sol there. We just need to let those cure basically overnight, but by tomorrow they will be nice and solid. So we've got the landing gear installed on that plane over there. Now we're going to get the landing gear installed on the right wing using the exact same methods. All right, sorry guys. That's what this is all about. All right, so landing gear install. Okay, we've got to clean some of this stuff up. We're getting messy. This is definitely one of my pet peeves, is slowly getting stuff all over the bench. And that's why I printed these awesome little trays with little compartments. So we've got all of our stuff sorted. Okay. All right, so we're doing our other gear. Where's our gear? Hello, gear. Where are you? You're over here. Okay, so our gear is, our pin's already flat spotted and Loctited into the leg. And then we're going to do all of our adjustments on the actual gear side here. So the way I did this on the other wing was I basically got this installed, kind of held it in place, and just figured out the best spot for it, marked one hole, and screwed it down. So we will get our lead run on this side. For our landing gear. And I'm just going to go look at the other wing and kind of get a reference of where the trunnion is in relation to the opening. Which doesn't really work because the gear is in the up position. So we're about a finger width. This is really technical stuff, guys. We're about a finger width between there and there. Very technical stuff. Okay, so we're going to turn this all back on now. Any comments? Any comments? No comments. You guys are just watching intently. Thank you. Okay, so gear is in the up position. Power on. And this is where we just adjust and play and adjust and play. So what I'm really looking for here is kind of getting it set in this round area of the fuselage or the wing. So roughly in that spot right there.
5 minutes.
Okay. So all I do in this case is we drill one. I'm going to turn everything off. So we drill one of the holes out. We are using blind nuts in this situation because the gear on the Strega is going to take a lot of force. So we drill a small hole first. That is a 7/64 hole. And then we drill a 3/16 hole. Maybe I'll bring you guys over here so you can see. Something like that. So yeah, what was this one? 3/16 hole, and then we go up to a 7/32. Now the 7/32 is the size that allows the blind nut to actually fit in the back side. So I'm going to drill this one out as well. There we go. So we've got one of those guys drilled out. Now what we do is we're going to install our blind nut. Don't have any washers yet. I need to find a washer. Washer doesn't fit. This is interesting. We need some big washers. Come on, big washers, where are you? There you go, that one will work. Okay, so we need to install one of the blind nuts. Now, I am not a fan of blind nuts, but in a situation like this, you pretty much need to use them because it's really one of the only ways to keep this particular gear extremely sturdily mounted. So the reason I'm using the pliers is because there's carbon on the underside of these gear rails, so it's not like it just grabs right away. You have to get the bolt kind of started. There we go. So we'll sink that blind nut all the way down. Here it is. And now what we can do is we can reinstall the landing gear, get this single bolt tight, and then we can adjust the exact position and angle. There's so much room between these landing gear plates that you pretty much have to do this one like this. And this bolt is a little bit tough because it had some Loctite on it before. All right. Let's see, Floyd. Oh, Floyd. Excellent. Thanks for joining the live stream. Okay, so now we'll screw this guy in. Still hooked up to the gear controller. And I feel like we just stripped it out. Son of a gun. All right, so this is one of those fun times that sometimes doesn't make it on camera. So what happened here was the blind nut came out, and right now the blind nut's spinning and nothing's happening. So what I do is just take a screwdriver, jam it in there, and hopefully we can prevent it from spinning. So anyways, this is going to be a bit of a challenge to get this out. Never fun, but unfortunately it happened. So my beautiful wife just came in the door and she's making this all weird and uncomfortable. The fan stopped working. And it's getting hot in here. It was plugged in, but the power bar went crappy. Oh, there we go. It's all the power bar, not the fan. All stuff you guys can't even see going on. Okay, so we need a bigger screwdriver. This is always the challenging stuff. Probably a flashlight so we can see what's going on. All right. So first thing we're going to try is just angling that gear up, putting some force on it, and hopefully that pulls the blind nut in. Nope. Okay, so let's see if we can pull the leg out. That's going to give us more clearance. RC you next Tuesday. That's funny. That's nice. How are you? All right. Okay, so we really don't have any access to that blind nut, which stinks. So the blind nut itself is actually spinning. I can see it. So what I'm trying to do is get the bolt out of the blind nut. Oh, I think I might have gotten it. I got it. So these are the trials and tribulations of the lighter side of RC. So yeah, that blind nut is not grabbing very well anymore. Okay, so we'll ditch that one because it's garbage. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about here. So, hey Shrek514, how are you? All the words are in the way. Anyways, the little pins that stick into the thing that this is grabbing into, the pins are gone, so that's why that's not grabbing. So we'll ditch that one. We'll go for one of the big guys. And we'll redo this one. Dun, dun. And I think I'm going to move the camera further away to give you guys kind of a different overview perspective here for a little bit. Not that it really matters, but I think give you guys a different view of things. Oh yeah, look at that. That's awesome. So much better. Except you can't see the detail, but you have to watch the regular videos for the detail. Okay, so this blind nut is holding a heck of a lot better. There we go. Okay, so that one's sunk in a lot better, and it's more stout blind nut. So now we can get that gear installed and get the rest of our holes drilled. Okay, so we just kind of get that just snugged down. So it's kind of holding everything in place. And now we've got a ton of movement with our gear. So now we're going to turn everything back on again. Okay, so that's on, so we'll go gear down. And then what I'll do here as well is get everything kind of set up sort of straight to the root of the wing, just roughly. And we'll snug those down just a little bit to keep them in place. So now we can still move the gear or the leg in the gear, and now we can kind of get things lined up. So we'll tighten that down just a little bit more. And okay. So what I'm doing there, the reason I'm adjusting the angle when it's up is because if we have it angled funny, it's going to hit the wing tube. And we want to make sure that it's not going to hit the wing tube. And then now I will just cycle this in and out while taking a look at the position. And just make sure I'm happy with it. And we can also compare this one to our other wing over here. So towards the wingtip, it goes a little bit more towards the back side of the wing. So towards the wingtip, goes a little bit towards the back side of the wing. So that is very similar. So with that in kind of the right position-ish, now we'll take our door and make sure there's going to be no interference. We may have to do a little bit of sanding there, but I think that will be, for the most part, okay. Okay, so that's good. And then we'll check our other door when it's closed. No interference there. So that's good. All right, so I think we are happy with that position. Awesome. So we'll tighten down this bolt a little bit more so we don't move. Confirm that we're good. We're good. I'm looking at that angle between the opening in the wing and the tire, and we're happy with that. So we need to go back to our next drill bit down, the 3/16. Now the 3/16 fits through the opening in the electron gear. That's good there. So we'll drill out all four. Beauty. So now with those drilled out, we can pull this landing gear out and we can get the rest of those blind nuts installed. I'm just going to fire the vacuum up and just suck up that stuff. And we can turn our receiver off and our radio off. And unplug the gear. Okay, so that's good. Now blind nut time. How's everybody doing? P51D wing. Yes. Yes. Also known as a Strega, I think. So we got a little bit of epoxy on the gear mounts. So I'm just going to take my plane, not my airplane, my plane. Just get rid of that. There we go. Okay, blind nut time. Okay, we do have to drill these out bigger. Forgot about that. Yes, that's good. Vacuum up the dust. All right, now we can cinch the blind nut down. Maybe. There we go. So these blind nuts are ones that I had previously sanded a flat spot on, so it didn't interfere with the landing gear. So I'm just trying to get the blind nut lined up properly. She is tight, sinking those blind nuts into the carbon and plywood. Now this plywood that's on these rails, there's 4 layers, totaling probably 1/2 inch, maybe 5/8, somewhere in that range. All right. Okay, so we need another blind nut. All right. All right, how you guys doing? Oh, let's see. Okay, so let's snug this guy up. So we got a little bit of blind nut sticking past the rails. We'll have to see if that interferes with anything. If it does interfere with anything, then we just take our Dremel and sand it down. But we'll probably be okay with the amount of space that we have. All right, there we go. So we'll test this out now and see if we need to give ourselves some grinding between those blind nuts. No, there's lots of room. No problem at all. All right, so that is that. Yeah, we can basically tighten this guy down now. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just tightening this gear down, but I will be pulling these out once we're happy with everything and putting Loctite on our bolts. And the reason I'm not doing it now is because we have all of our doors and stuff to deal with. I just want to make sure that we're not getting it all tightened down, Loctite it in place, and then have to pull the gear back out to do something with the doors. So that's the reason we are doing it the way that we're doing it. Here we go. So 2 gear installed on the P51 / Strega. How long have we been streaming for? Holy, 1 hour and 49 minutes. That's crazy. Crazy, crazy. Well, if you guys have any questions, question period, ask away. I'll answer anything you want. I'm going to cut the live stream off at 2-hour mark. So if you have any questions, now is the time to ask. There we go. So fun. Upcoming projects we have in the shop. So things are a little bit, not slow right now, but I guess changed because we have, obviously we're in summertime, flying season. Battery's still good at 46%. So yeah, we're in flying season right now. So obviously there's I don't spend a lot of time in the shop during the weekends. It's just the week right now. We're getting the Strega wrapped up. We've got a TAMS BVM F18 that we're going to be finishing. That's for one of my friends down in Montana. We've got, this is a cool project I brought up from Montana. So if any of you guys are old school jet guys, you may recognize that. That's a BVM T33 kit. That is for me. So we're going to be doing that this winter as well. how often are we going to do a live chat? So I'm going to do it. My goal is weekly. During the summertime, like now, if we've got an event on the weekends and we're not going to be in the shop on Saturday, we'll probably do it during the week. But as we get into fall and winter, we will do it generally weekends. And I kind of envision it being a little bit different. So I'm going to have Katie kind of running the camera, and she can come in and actually do stuff. And then she can read your guys' comments while I'm busy working. And then I can just answer your questions while I'm working. So the goal is weekly, is what it is. Floyd, your question was, does the turbine company you are a dealer for make a turboprop engine? So no, Swewen does not make turboprop engines. If I was to make a recommendation right now, if the project was suitable for a 45 series turboprop, the Zykoy series of turboprops would be my number one choice. After that, it would be JetCat would be my number two choice, and that's it. So I wouldn't suggest any of the other turboprop manufacturers out there right now. So Dave said, on my bench, I have an Avante Mini with an X45. How do you think it might fly compared to the larger version? No flaps, only flaperons. So anytime you have a big plane and a small plane, the larger plane always flies better. Always, no matter what. Little planes are fun. They're fun to mess around with. They're usually less money to put together, especially in the case of that Avante. But the bigger the plane, the better it is to fly. A great example that I think would be very suitable, the Ultimatum, the U2 that we recently built, hanging up there. Hispano Aviation is working on a 3-meter version. So that's a 2-meter version, hence the 2.0. The 3-meter version, so you're talking about 7 foot plane. 3 meters would be 369, about a 10-foot plane. So the Ultimatum 3.0 is going to be a great plane. It's probably going to fly better than the 2.0 purely because it's bigger. The bigger they are, the better they are to fly. The small planes are fun though. What I find generally with the smaller planes is most people care less about the smaller planes. So you're generally going to take more risks. And this again, I'm just making some generalizations. Most people are going to take more risks with the smaller planes. You should be flying it closer because they're smaller and they're harder to see at distances. They're usually more agile, a little bit quicker. You can set them up quicker than the bigger planes. So they're both going to be great flyers though. So yeah, Dave, Hispano Aviation stuff, it's kind of like the Ferrari of aircraft. And I think I said that during the build of that, or maybe it was the Bull. That was one of the things I loved about the Bull when I first saw it. It was like, it really was the Ferrari of jets. I mean, there's other manufacturers that make beautiful aircraft. I've never owned an Elite Aerosports aircraft. They look amazing. The kinetics is right up there as well too. But when you look at the Hispano Aviation, like the inside of the fuselages are all painted. I mean, it's just kind of next level, right? So I do really like them. And I'm hoping that I can organize the 3-meter version of the Ultimatum when they do come out. So the Krill Avanti XS with the Swewen 190, and absolutely love it. Yeah, I mean it's just a great way to do it. The bigger the aircraft, the easier they are to fly. Same thing with the Super Elan, right? The regular Elan, awesome to fly. This past weekend we were out flying. My buddy Stacy, I gave him the sticks for a flight, and he absolutely fell in love with the Super Elan. And he owns a regular Elan that he's actually selling right now. I believe it's getting picked up this week by the new owner. But he loved the Super Elan. The reason he loved it, number one, it was way more visible in the sky. So he was flying at the same height as he would normally fly at, or same distance away from himself. But I mean, the Super Elan was it's just there, right? And that's what he loved about it. And then it just handles better. It's a heavier plane, handles winds and everything better because of that. So yeah, it's definitely true. So, all right, guys, any other questions? Now's the time to ask. We're going to cut it off in about 4 minutes. Hopefully you guys found this enjoyable. Thanks for tuning in if you watched part of it or all of it. There you go. Thanks for watching me and the Blue Jays. That's cool. Yeah, so upcoming projects. Oh, we also have this Hawk, which we picked up as well. This is, right now, it's a shop plane. It may be on the weekend. Part of where this comes from, the lighter side of RC, has nothing to do with the cost of aircraft. Most people say, yeah, it's the heavier side of RC or more expensive side of RC. What that means is basically when I go out flying, I don't want to have to deal with politics. I don't want to have to deal with drama. I just want to go fly my aircraft. That's the first part of it. And the second part of it is, I think there's too many people out there that know all this stuff about putting aircraft together, and they just hold it way too tightly, and they don't share it with enough people. So that's been my goal for the past 3 years, was to have this be somewhere where somebody can come and learn. Somebody can come and learn about an aircraft that they're perhaps putting together, that I've already put together, and basically teaching the stuff that I know to anybody who's willing to listen. So thank you guys for listening as well too. It was very cool to do this, and we'll do it again hopefully next week. It'll probably be midweek as well, because next weekend we've got more events coming up. So that's the plan. We may do it. We'll schedule it again for next Wednesday. So anyways, guys, we'll start to cut it off there. So thanks for watching, and thanks for tuning in. If you tuned in during the live chat, I appreciate it. If you're watching afterwards, because you can watch this afterwards, thanks for watching and spending some time with me. So we'll see you guys in the next video, and we'll see you hopefully at an event soon. So thanks, guys, and we'll catch you next time.